الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال علي بن الحسين عليه الصلاة والسلام وأما حق نفسك عليك فأن تستوفيها في طاعة الله. صلوات भेजिए मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद. I hope that you all had a very rejuvenating and learning experience in the first Ashra of Muharram. Continuing with the speech and the topic and the discussion that we've had prior to breaking for Muharram and Hajj, we were talking about the Huquq that Imam ﷺ has mentioned in Risalatul Huquq, and we were discussing the second haqq that Imam discusses, which is the rights of your soul. We initially mentioned this ibarat that Imam says the right of yourself, and the right of yourself incumbent upon you is that you employ it in obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then you deliver to your tongue its right, to your hearing its right, to your sight its right, and to your hand its right, and to your leg its right, and to your stomach its right, and to your private part its right, and you seek help from God in all that. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam starts out the second right by discussing the right of our nafs. Now the discussion of the nafs, we did begin that 1 week, and I don't know how much of you guys have it in mind, but just a quick recap is that we were just beginning to discuss the different types of nufus that Quran discusses. I'm sure this discussion have come about many times before, so I will not be dwelling too much into it and taking too much of your time about it, but we'll go through it nonetheless as Imam discusses it. So the various aspects of the self, or this nafs, which have been discussed by the Quran. The first is the nafsil ammara that we always hear of, is discussed in Surah Yusuf, verse number 53, where it says, وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي إِنَّ رَبِّي غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Yet I do not absolve my own carnal soul, for the carnal soul indeed prompts men to evil, except as my Lord, except the person whom my Lord has bestowed His mercy upon. Indeed, my Lord is all forgiving and all merciful. We see that nafs al-ammara is explained as the dictating ego. And if you want to translate the word nafs as ego, it will give you a good meaning of that as well. The nafs, which is right now sort of commanding you, giving you amr, and that's where the word ammara comes into play. So it's the one which is giving you orders, it's the one which is telling you to do this and that, and this is where it leads you towards su, it leads you towards evil. It says the dictating ego in its primitive stage, the ego tells one to commit evil, and that's what its job is, and that's what it's going to go ahead and tell you, to go ahead and do evil. How does it do that? It utilizes all of these organs that Imam mentions. Utilizes the eyes, utilizes the ears, utilizes the tongue, the stomach, the private parts, the legs, the hands. As Imam is mentioning in initial stage that it is your right to pay attention towards your nafs, Imam mentions all of these other body parts alongside with it, because these body parts are the one who are committing the actions, but they're being ordered by this nafs. So that's why Imam says first try and tame this nafs, and then pay right to your ears, pay right to your eyes, to your hand, to your legs, to your private parts, and to your stomach, and so on and so forth. He said nafs al-ammara is that which orders us to fulfill the lustful desires. This is man's biggest enemy. The greatest religious men always had sought God's help to fight themselves against this, and Quran talks about it as well. So we see it has 7 heads that must be chopped off. This nafs al-ammara has 7 heads, which it basically decrees and orders. And if they are chopped off from initial stage, then you will not be affected by this nafsul ammara, according to the ulama and the scholars that they mention. The 7 heads that must be chopped off, first is takabbur, false pride, arrogance. This is one area where nafsul ammara will be bringing you towards takabbur. Without any reason, it's going to make you feel like that you're better than someone, make you arrogant, and sort of bring you at a place of comparison. So you'll start comparing yourself with others. This is what shaitan did. خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِينٍ. That, oh Allah, you created me from nar, and you created Adam from this clay. So, basically I'm better than that. أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّنْهُ. I'm better than that. So right away when you start comparing yourself with others, this is where this takabbur comes into play. And nafsul ammara is using that. Second is greed, hirs. Again, one of the heads of nafsul ammara, that it makes you greedy, makes you want more, makes you, go ahead and take things which belong to other people. Third is jealousy. Jealousy is hasad, where you feel bad about that which other people possess and you lack. So you don't have it, other people have it. What do you want? You don't want these things necessarily. Only what you want is that Allah take that thing away from that individual. This is what hasad is. Hasad is not that you want that thing from that individual. So if you see someone has something which you don't, when you're doing hasad, when you're jealous, you don't necessarily want that thing for yourself. What you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or what you're asking or hoping for, is that, oh Allah, take that thing away from that individual as well. Fourth is the lust, the shahwa. Fifth is ghiba. Sixth is bukhul, or stinginess. And seventh is kina, or malice, keeping bughz for someone else. These are discussed to be the 7 heads of nafsul ammara that must be chopped off in order for one to remain aloof from this nafsul ammara to be controlling us. What is meant in this verse is the man should restrain himself and fight his carnal desires. The commander of the faithful also mentions this when he says, "An-nafsu majbulatun bisu'il adab, wal-abdu ma'murun bimulazamati husnil adab." I'll read the translation. Imam says, the soul is inclined towards evil deeds, as a servant has the responsibility of directing it towards good deeds. The soul tries to resist, but the servant tries to control the bad desires of the soul. Whenever a servant lets his soul free to do as it wishes, he is a partner in the corruption. So as soon as you let go of it, you become partner of it in the corruption and the crimes committed by the soul. Whoever aids his own soul to fulfill these desires has indeed taken part in killing himself. So, the ayat of Quran and many places we read, those people whose souls will be taken away, إِذَا تَوَفَّاهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. There will be people whose souls, when the malaika will come and take their soul, those who have done zulm against themselves. Doing zulm against yourself is killing yourself, basically, and doing these things to yourself. The malaika will ask them, "Fima kuntum," where were you? They will reply by saying, "Kunna mustad'afina fil ard." We were the weak ones on the earth. We didn't have much power. We got misled by shaitan. We got misled by people. We couldn't practice our deen, our religion. We couldn't stand and remain steadfast in what was commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right away, they were trying to present this uzr, this excuse for not being able to perform all of these things or being misled by shaitan. Right away, the malaika will reply by saying, "Alam takun ardullahi wasi'atan fatuhajiru fiha." Was not the land of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala vast enough for you to go ahead, move about, and perform these duties that Allah has made wajib upon you? Did you stay where you were? And this is where we understand, I just want to link this, that how Imam Hussein in his journey, he takes this route. Right away, a person could ask the same question to Imam. Wasn't the land of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala big enough for you to move about? Imam could answer right away, yes, it was. Although I had to leave my grandfather's town, my mother's town, the place where I grew up, Medina in order to be able to fulfill the desires of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in order to be able to fulfill my duties towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam takes this path. We see in another place, our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam says, he says, أقصر نفسك عما يضرها من قبل. It says, hinder your soul from bringing you harm and prevent losses before you depart from it. Try to free it from its illegitimate desires as hard as you try to earn a living, since the soul is subject to your deeds. So right away, Imam is giving a few analogies. He says, prevent it before you depart that place. So you go ahead and you stop it from bringing harm to you. Second is stop it from leading you towards these illicit desires as hard as you try and earn a living. You know how hard it is to earn a living? Living that is also legal, living that is also rizq halal. How hard is it to earn rizq halal? As much as you try for that, also Imam is giving you an example. Do the same thing when it comes to controlling your desires. The amount of respect that you pay towards your livelihood, or the amount of time you spend towards your livelihood, and the energy you spend towards it because you want to earn rizq halal, Imam says do the same thing, controlling your desires as well. So it says fight the instincts. أفضل الجهاد مجاهدة المرء نفسه. The most excellent jihad is one's fighting against his own selfish desires. I'm sure you've heard throughout the majalis in Muharram how, or the events in regards to jihad, we've heard many times how when a group came back from a war, Prophet greeted them by saying, "Marhaba biqawmin qadaw al-jihad al-asghar wa baqiya alayhim jihad al-akbar." He said, "Welcome back, O the people who performed minor struggle. Now remains upon you the major struggle." Right away, people ask, "Oh Prophet, we almost got killed over there, and you're saying that was minor struggle?" So yes, that was minor struggle. Although you almost got killed over there, fighting with your physical bodies over there. What remains upon you now is the major struggle, which is to fight with your nafs and to stay against the desires that lead you towards the evil. Rasulullah also mentions, he says, "Inna shadida laysa man ghalaba an-nas, walakinna shadida man ghalaba ala nafsihi." He says, strong man is not the one who overcomes the people or is able to lift heavy stuff. He said, no. Rather, a strong man is the one who can overcome his self, his desires. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, "Khalif nafsaka tastaqim wa khalit al-ulama ta'lam." Fight yourself to avoid any deviations and live an upright life. Associate with the people who possess knowledge so that you can learn and get freed from ignorance. And so on and so forth. Imam mentions one hadith after another, stronger than the one who can lift this rock. Imam mentions this incident which took place when Prophet was passing by a place, and he saw a group of people. He saw a man who was lifting a heavy rock. People were amazed at his strength. I'm sure you've seen those programs that come, the strongest men program, they're lifting these heavy objects and whatnot. So people were amazed at his strength and admired him. When they told Prophet about him and his might, Prophet said to him, "Afala ukhbirukum bima huwa ashaddu minhu?" Do you want me to tell you about someone who's stronger than this individual? Rajulun sabbahu rajulun. He said, whoever is insulted by others but remains or restrains himself. The person who lifts a rock is not strong. But the person, if he's insulted by another individual but is able to restrain his soul, that person is more strong. That person is definitely stronger. The one who controls his anger and overcomes the devil within himself and the devil inside the one who insulted him is stronger than this man who's lifting these heavy rocks. The second type of nafs is nafs al-lawwama, which is the reproachable or reproachful self, and then comes the nafs al-mulhama, and then comes nafs mutma'inna. Inshallah, we'll discuss that in the weeks to come. Just to end on this nafs mutma'inna, we see and we read the ayat in Quran which says, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyya fadkhuli fi ibadi wadkhuli jannati. O the serene soul, return to your Lord in the state that you are pleased with Him and He is pleased with you. Enter into my servants and enter into my paradise. We hear that the soul that for this call was made, and at the time when Imam ﷺ was also in the battlefield, one of the calls that came to him was the call, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna. How beautifully Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding Imam Hussein that your job is not to kill all of these people and to overcome the enemy by destroying them. Rather, by being killed or by being martyred is how you're going to overcome this enemy, which is not just your personal enemy, but is also the enemy of Islam. You heard the events of Karbala, and as soon as this group, this caravan moves from Karbala towards Kufa, we see the problems that were there up until Karbala were the problems of being thirsty, the problem of being hungry, the problem of being martyred. And this is all Imam Hussein said to his son Imam Sajjad, that these are the things that we can easily go by. Shahadat is something which we have received in our wirtha, so it's not a problem for us to face this shahadat and to remain thirsty and hungry for a couple of days. But what is ahead of you is definitely something which is the most difficult part of all of this journey, that you have to go with the women and the children marching through the streets of Kufa and marching through the streets of Sham. And this is where we see that 20-some years ago when Janab Zainab came into Kufa, she came when her father was the Khalifa of the city. He was the Hakim of the time, and the way Janab Zainab comes into Kufa at that time, nobody notices it, because she comes covered in these sawari that is being bringing to her, that nobody sees that Janab Zainab or the family has come in. And such dignity and honor was given at that time when Janab Zainab had come in 20-some years ago. We see, unfortunately, in the year 61, how this qafila, this caravan, when it enters into Kufa, how people are now throwing things as stuff at this caravan, how people are not recognizing these very people whom they had recognized some 20 years ago, how they're not paying respect to these individuals whom they used to pay respect to some 20 years ago, how quickly the people of Kufa have forgotten that this household is the household of Rasulullah. This household is not an ordinary household. Just one quick event, inshallah, I'll end with that, is that when Janab Zainab enters with all her might and with all of her family members, right away there was a person by the name Abdullah ibn Afif. This person was a person who had lost both of his eyes. He lost one eye in Jang-e-Siffin, the other one probably in Jamal or another war, and he always complained that why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give him shahadat, took both of his eyes away from him so he couldn't do anything anymore, but he did not attain the level of shahadat. And when he was walking down the street of Kufa with his daughter who was helping him along the way, he hears the khutbah of Janab Zainab, and he stops and he says to his daughter, has Qayamat happened already? Daughter says, no, it's not Qayamat. He says, and he replies by saying, then why is it that I hear the sound of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib? He said, why is it that I hear the sound of my Mawla Ali ibn Abi Talib? She replies by saying, no, this is not the sound of your Mawla Ali ibn Abi Talib. Rather, this is the voice of the daughter of Ali ibn Abi Talib, Janab Zainab, Salamullahi alayha. And he says, now I understand that why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took both of my eyes away. This was the day that He took both of my eyes away, so that I do not have to look up at the heads which are open, the heads of the ladies, the heads of the ladies of the household of Ahlul Bayt and the household of Rasulullah, so that I don't have to look at their heads without any veils. And this is the day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, although He did not give me shahadat, but He took both of my eyes away. But this brave man fought so bravely that he finally attained shahadat, and he was martyred in Kufa as well. Ala la'natullahi al-qawm al-zalimin. Wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayyamun qalbin yanqalibun. By Allah हमारी इस बात कबूल फरमा, हम गुनाहगार हैं, हमारे गुनाहों से दरगुजर फरमा, हमें अहले बैत अलैहिस्सलाम के नक्श कदम चलने की तौफीक अता फरमा, हमारे इमाम के ज़ुहूर में ताजील फरमा, हमें उनके आवान अनुसार में शुमार कर। रब्बना तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंतस समीउल अलीम।